All right, if you're just joining us, I need you to understand something about what happened today in Washington. Because this is one of those moments, the kind we'll be talking about for years, the kind that separates what came before from what comes after. If you care about this, if you believe that power should answer to the people who grant it, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that notification bell because this story is accelerating and you need to be in the room when the next chapter unfolds. Let's go. Here's the thing about congressional hearings. They operate on a set of unwritten rules that everyone in Washington understands implicitly. You don't name names directly. You couch accusations in procedural language so dense that by the time the sentence ends, the meaning has evaporated into plausible deniability. That's how the game works. That's how it's always worked. Eric Swalwell threw the rulebook in the trash. He looked Kash Patel dead in the eyes. He invoked Jeffrey Epstein. He named Donald Trump. And he accused the sitting FBI director, on camera in open session for the congressional record, of systematically burying evidence to protect a former president. This isn't rumor. This isn't speculation. This is testimony. And it changes everything. Let me walk you through exactly how this unfolded, because the details matter enormously here. This was originally scheduled as a closed-door Senate Intelligence Committee session, standard classified briefing, the kind of thing that happens in windowless escapes where nothing sees daylight. Swalwell made a request at the last possible moment. He wanted it moved to open session. He told his colleagues the American people deserved to witness what was about to happen. That should have been the first warning sign. Kash Patel walked in, projecting the confidence of a man who has survived 100 of these hearings. 3 attorneys flanking him, 2 aides behind, the body language of someone who knows how to run out the clock and exit unscathed. He sat down, he checked his watch, he looked profoundly bored. He had absolutely no idea what was coming. For 40 minutes, the hearing proceeded exactly as expected. Budget allocations, counterterrorism updates, surveillance protocols. Patel delivered his standard non-answers, the kind engineered to sound like cooperation while revealing nothing of substance. He was coasting, watching the clock, already mentally somewhere else. Then Swalwell took the microphone. "Director Patel, I want to discuss the Epstein files." Patel didn't flinch. He's fielded this question before. His deflections were chambered and ready. "Of course, Senator, as I've stated in previous, I'm not interested in your previous testimony." Swalwell opened a folder. Red, thick, tabbed with colored markers like a prosecutor about to present exhibits to a jury. "I'm interested in what you haven't told us." Here's where this hearing became something else entirely. Specifically, Swalwell continued, "I need you to explain why every document in the Epstein files that references Donald Trump has been reclassified since you assumed leadership of the FBI." The room didn't go quiet, it stopped breathing. You could feel it through the camera feed, that collective moment when everyone present realizes they're witnessing something that cannot be walked back. Patel attempted the standard maneuver. "Senator, I have no knowledge of any reclassification targeting documents related to any specific individual." No knowledge. Swalwell reached for a document, held it up so every camera could capture it clearly. "This is an internal FBI memorandum dated March 15th of this year. 3 months after you took office. It directs the Classification Review Board to fast-track review of all Epstein-related materials referencing current government officials or individuals connected to them." He paused. "Let the cameras drink it in. It carries your deputy director's signature. You're telling this committee you knew nothing about it?" Patel's eyes moved to his attorneys. Nothing came back. No scribbled notes. No whispered rescue. This wasn't a situation they could extract him from. "Senator, classification reviews are routine. There is nothing routine about this." Swalwell's voice climbed, still controlled, barely. "Since you took office, 23 documents previously approved for public release have been pulled back and reclassified. 23. Every single one mentions Donald Trump." He leaned forward. "That's not coincidence, Director. That's a pattern." This is where Patel made the error that will define this hearing. He tried to make it political. He tried to frame Swalwell as a partisan actor pursuing vendetta. "Senator, I find it disappointing that committee members continue pursuing politically motivated. Swalwell laughed, not a real laugh, the sharp, bitter kind that contains zero humor. "Director Patel, I'm not the one who reclassified documents to protect a former president. You are. I'm not the one who swore an oath to uphold the law and then buried evidence. You did." His frustration crystallized into something harder. "Do you understand what's inside those documents, Director? Do you grasp what the American people would learn if they were actually released?" Patel's jaw tightened visibly. "Senator, I won't speculate on classified material. Then I'll spell it out for you." Swalwell reached for another document. This is an unclassified summary of witness testimony from 2019, a woman employed at Epstein's Palm Beach residence. She provided 14 names, 14 men she personally witnessed with underage girls at that property. He never broke eye contact with Patel. One of those names was Donald Trump. The gallery erupted. Audible gasps, reporters lunging for phones, senators exchanging looks ranging from disbelief to something resembling relief. The kind that arrives when something unspeakable has finally been spoken aloud. Patel tried to interrupt. "Senator, that testimony was fully reviewed and then what? Stamped classified? Locked away? Erased from public view?" Swalwell rose to his feet, actually standing mid-hearing. "I've covered Congress extensively. I have never seen a senator do that. The FBI has possessed that testimony for 6 years. 6 years. And instead of investigating, instead of following leads, instead of performing the work Americans expect, you reclassified it." He pointed directly at Patel. "You didn't protect national security. You protected Donald Trump. Everyone in this room knows it. I need to pause here. If this matters to you, if accountability means something, if transparency means something, hit that like button right now. Share this video. Drop a comment. This is the kind of story that needs to break through algorithmic noise. You decide what reaches people. Help this conversation find more eyes." Now, let me tell you what happened next. Swalwell picked up a photograph. Large, color, held it up so every camera in that chamber could capture it clearly. "Do you recognize this, Director Patel?" Trump and Epstein. The widely circulated Mar-a-Lago image from 1997. Both men smiling, both appearing comfortable. Familiar, because they were. "This image has been public for years," Swalwell said. "Everyone's seen it. What the public hasn't seen are the 37 additional photographs from that same event. Images currently logged as evidence in FBI storage. Images your office has declined to release." He placed the photograph flat on the desk. "Tell me, Director, what's in those pictures? What are you keeping hidden?" Patel was visibly sweating now. Not figuratively. Actual perspiration forming under the hearing room lights. "Senator, releasing evidentiary photographs involves complicated factors, including privacy concerns and potential investigation." "There is no investigation." Swalwell's palm struck the desk. The microphone jolted. "Epstein is dead. Maxwell is incarcerated. That chapter is closed. The only explanation for keeping those photos classified is that someone powerful doesn't want them seen." He locked eyes with Patel. "We both know exactly who that someone is." What followed was 20 seconds of absolute silence. 20 seconds in a congressional hearing is an eternity. It's the sound of a witness who has exhausted his answers. It's the sound of everyone watching realizing they're witnessing something that will not be forgotten. Patel sat frozen. His attorneys offered nothing. Every rehearsed talking point collapsed under the weight of someone finally willing to say aloud what everyone else only whispered. When he finally spoke, his tone had shifted, lower, guarded. "Senator, I completely reject any suggestion that the FBI has acted to shield any individual, regardless of political affiliation. All classification decisions are made strictly on the basis of legitimate national security and law enforcement concerns." Swalwell slowly shook his head. "Director Patel, here's what I see." He began stacking his papers. Movements deliberate. "I see an FBI director appointed by Donald Trump, an FBI director whose entire career trajectory is tied to Donald Trump. And for 11 months, I see an FBI director systematically concealing evidence linking Donald Trump to a convicted sex trafficker." He looked up. "That isn't law enforcement, Director. That's obstruction. And I promise you, I promise the American people, this committee will uncover the truth, even if I have to personally subpoena every document in that building." The hearing continued after that. Technically, other senators asked questions: cybersecurity, foreign interference, procedural matters. None of it registered. The only thing echoing through that chamber was what Eric Swalwell had just entered into the Congressional record. Donald Trump's name appears in the Epstein files. Kash Patel has been keeping it buried. Within minutes, footage was everywhere. Cable networks interrupted programming. Legal analysts began debating whether Patel's testimony constituted criminal obstruction. Somewhere inside FBI headquarters, staffers were undoubtedly scrambling to prepare answers for questions that were never supposed to be asked in public. Let me explain why this moment carries such weight. For years, speculation has swirled about the Epstein files. Who else was involved? Which powerful people have been shielded? Internet investigations, conspiracy theories, countless conversations leading nowhere. Speculation is different from evidence. What Swalwell presented in that hearing was evidence, actual documents, actual memos, actual witness testimony that names names, and the name that keeps appearing, the name that keeps receiving protection, the name every reclassified document seems designed to conceal? Trump. I want to be absolutely clear. I'm not rendering verdicts on anyone's guilt. That's not my function. My function is to tell you what happened inside that hearing room. And what happened was this. A sitting United States senator presented evidence suggesting the FBI has been deliberately shielding a former president from materials connecting him to Jeffrey Epstein. If that doesn't concern you, I don't know what would. Swalwell announced the committee will move to subpoena all 23 reclassified documents. He's demanding a closed-door briefing with the Classification Review Board. He's calling for an Inspector General investigation into how Patel has handled Epstein-related evidence. Will any of it move forward? Washington excels at making things disappear. Attention fades. Memories shorten. The next controversy consumes the news cycle. The machinery continues. But this moment isn't fading. That clip isn't disappearing. That image of Trump and Epstein isn't going anywhere. And the question Swalwell asked, "What are you hiding?" isn't going to stop reverberating. Patel now faces an accounting. He has to explain why 23 documents were pulled from public release. He has to explain why every single one involves Donald Trump. He has to look at the American public and insist this is all coincidence. Good luck. I keep replaying that scene. Swalwell rising from his chair, pointing directly at Patel, saying aloud what people have whispered for years, but nobody in power would commit to the record. You protected Donald Trump, and everyone in this room knows it. That isn't politics. That's an accusation. Accusations like that don't evaporate. They hang in the air. They demand answers. They create pressure that builds until something cracks. Something is going to crack here. The wall shielding those files. The wall Patel has been maintaining. It's fracturing. Eric Swalwell just took a sledgehammer to it. 3 minutes. That's all it required to accomplish what nobody else would do. To name the name. To draw the connection. To demand answers Kash Patel clearly cannot provide. The Epstein files and Donald Trump. Not conspiracy theory anymore. Congressional record. And Patel sat there, sweating under those lights, with no answer and nowhere to hide. The legal implications are profound. If witness testimony exists naming Trump, if photographs exist showing Trump at Epstein properties, if FBI documentation connects Trump to Epstein's activities, and if all of that material has been systematically hidden from public view, we're not talking about protecting classified sources and methods. We're talking about obstruction. We're talking about potential accessory after the fact. We're talking about using the machinery of federal law enforcement to shield powerful individuals from accountability. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's what Swalwell alleged on the congressional record with documentary evidence to support the claim. Now watch what happens next. Other senators will demand access to those files. Congressional committees have subpoena power. They can compel production. They can hold officials in contempt. They can refer criminal conduct to the Department of Justice. The machinery of oversight, dormant for so long, is activating. And once it starts moving, it's very difficult to stop. Patel's career may not survive this. FBI directors serve at the pleasure of the president, but they answer to Congress. When a senator accuses you of obstruction on national television with evidence, when footage of you sweating and deflecting goes viral, when your credibility collapses in real time, the political calculation changes. Republicans who defended Patel yesterday are silent today. Democrats who were cautious are emboldened. The middle ground, the plausible deniability, the benefit of the doubt, all of it evaporated in that 3-minute exchange. Here's what legal experts are focusing on. The witness testimony Swalwell referenced. The woman from Palm Beach who provided 14 names. That testimony exists. It's in FBI files. And according to Swalwell, it names Donald Trump. If that testimony is credible, if it's corroborated, if additional witnesses support it, Trump faces exposure that no immunity doctrine can shield. These aren't allegations about presidential conduct. These aren't official acts. These are private activities, personal behavior, criminal conduct that has nothing to do with governing. No immunity exists for that. None. The Supreme Court's recent rulings on presidential immunity explicitly carved out private conduct. If Trump is named in witness testimony about Epstein, that's private. That's prosecutable. The statute of limitations varies by jurisdiction, but for certain serious crimes, especially those involving minors, the clock can be extended or paused. Prosecutors in multiple states have expressed interest in reviewing Epstein-related materials. If the FBI has been sitting on witness testimony for 6 years, if that testimony names Trump, if Patel has been systematically hiding it, the dam just broke. The photograph Swalwell mentioned, 37 additional images from that Mar-a-Lago event, images the FBI refuses to release. What's in those photographs that requires classification? You don't classify photographs to protect national security unless those photographs contain sensitive intelligence equities. Social photographs from a private club don't meet that threshold. Unless the content of those photographs is so damaging to powerful individuals that releasing them creates unacceptable political risk. That's not national security classification. That's political protection masquerading as classification. Swalwell knows this, legal experts know this, and now the American people know this. The truth is emerging. One hearing at a time, one document at a time, one senator willing to ask the questions at a time. Here's what you need to do right now. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. When something breaks, and something will break, you'll see it here first. Like this video. The algorithm decides what spreads. You can decide that this story reaches more people. Share it. Send it to someone who needs to see this. This conversation requires more eyes. And one more thing. This story isn't over. Swalwell's accusations will force responses. Patel will have to answer. The Inspector General will have to investigate. Congressional subpoenas will be issued. Every step forward reveals more. Every document released creates pressure for the next document. Every question answered raises 10 more questions. The wall protecting those files is crumbling. The silence that has shielded powerful people for years is breaking. And when it fully collapses, when those 23 documents become public, when those 37 photographs are released, when that witness testimony is entered into evidence, the landscape changes permanently. Stay with this story, because what Eric Swalwell did today wasn't just political theater. It was the beginning of an accounting that powerful people hoped would never come. He said the names, he presented the evidence, he made the accusation, and he did it on the congressional record where it cannot be erased, cannot be spun away, cannot be forgotten. You didn't protect national security, you protected Donald Trump. And everyone in this room knows it. That statement is now part of the permanent record. It will be quoted in investigations, it will be referenced in legal filings, it will be studied by historians trying to understand how accountability finally arrived. The walls are coming down, not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, inexorably, one hearing, one document, one question at a time. And Kash Patel, sweating under those lights, unable to answer, unable to defend, unable to explain why every document mentioning Trump has been hidden. That image tells you everything you need to know about what comes next. The truth doesn't stay buried forever. It just takes one person willing to dig, one person willing to ask, one person willing to say out loud what everyone else only whispers. Eric Swalwell was that person today, and the consequences of what he just set in motion will reverberate for years. Subscribe, stay informed. This story is far from over. The next chapter is coming, and you'll want to be here when it breaks. The walls are coming down.